Hello, and thanks for joining us to hear about the Lit in Colour Pioneers Programme 2024. Now, we're really happy to be continuing to work with our partners, Penguin and the Runnymede Trust, as it's been such a great success so far. And the reason why it's so important to us and why we're so delighted to give schools the opportunity to join the programme is because we know the amazing positive impact it's had on those schools who've already joined us and become a Lit in Colour pioneer. We've heard what teachers have said about how difficult it's been since the pandemic, and so we want to help them to diversify their curriculum and make sure it's the minimum amount of stress so that we're here all step of the way, every step of the way, I should say, to support teachers with introducing more diverse texts for GCSEs and A-level. So first, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Pam McLaughlin, and as you can see on the slide, it says I'm an English qualification product manager. I used to be a teacher until about 4 years ago, and now I work at Pearson Excel, as it says, on the GCSE A-level English qualifications. And I have with me today Zaahida Nabagereka, who is the Senior Social Impact Manager for Lit in Colour at Penguin Random House. So thanks for joining me for this launch event, Zaahida. It's great to see you again.
Thanks, Pam. Really glad to be here.
Brilliant. And so just to give you a little bit of context, back in 2021, Katie Lewis was the head of English qualifications here at Pearson Excel, and she became aware of the Lit in Colour programme and what it was more broadly, as it were. So then she reached out to Penguin and Runnymede about the possibility of partnering with them to support schools who are really keen to diversify their curriculum, but obviously, as mentioned earlier, due to budget constraints and time issues, etc., they hadn't been able to introduce any new text. And that was the start of the Lit in Colour Pioneers programme. So shortly, I'll give you more information about exactly what it entails. But I just wanted to give you, again, just to give you a little bit of context here. So obviously, we do really recognise the importance of diversity. And as you can see there, in 2019, Pearson Excel added 2 novels and 2 plays and a new collection of poetry, which has been amazing, really. It's been really well received. And just to give you a number, really, the total number of GCSE texts that have been given to schools to support them in diversifying their curriculum is over 21,000. That's through the Pioneers programme, obviously. So, you know, the new texts have been well received in terms of teachers have told us that it's increased student engagement with the text. And again, which is something that teachers are really more, concerned with, really, is the fact we've been able to support teachers in teaching the new text. We have lots of resources freely available for teachers to get them started with. There's schemes of learning, knowledge organisers, plenty of exemplars across the grade range. So, there's all the exemplars available for you. There's SAMs, there's online training events as well. And of course, when you become a pioneer, you can network with other schools who teach the same examination text that you've chosen from the Pioneers programme. And then when you're looking at A-level English literature, in 2022, Pearson added the 4 texts, Les Blancs, Sweat, Home Fire and The Cutting Season. And, again, they've been amazing. And just to give you an idea with that, with those new A-level texts, we've donated over 4,000 copies of the A-level text through this programme. So it's just fantastic we've been able to support teachers and schools with that. And these texts have now been added, as I mentioned, and we have resources, of course, and additional exciting events even online, so to support teachers and students. So, for example, we did an online event last term on the play Sweat by Lynn Nottage, and this was brilliant, as we had Andrew Green, who is a lecturer in English at Brunel University, and we also had an interview with Lynette Linton, who directed Sweat at the Donmar Theatre even a couple of years ago. And it was just so insightful and interesting to actually have the director there. We had questions from students had sent in questions, and it was just brilliant that we were able to get that insightful and interesting aspect and point of view from the director. So yes, that'll be a great teaching resource to hear from the director about the actual play, so students will be able to engage with that, etc. Yeah, so that just gives you an idea of the sort of things that we like to do to support teachers. Now I'm just going to pass over to Zaahida now, who's going to talk about Lit in Colour in more depth. So over to you.
Thanks, Pam. So, yeah, I just wanted to give you a bit more background and context to the overall Lit in Colour campaign. It was founded in 2020 by Penguin Random House, and one of the first activities that Penguin did was to commission the Runnymede Trust to undertake some research to better understand what barriers teachers currently face when it comes to including more books by writers of colour. Together, we published that research in 2021, and it found that overall, teachers struggle with time. Teachers are time poor, don't have enough support in terms of being able to find and source really good books to be able to bring into the classroom. Even when they have found really good books, there aren't enough resources to be able to really teach them well. But there's also significant training lacking when it comes to teaching teachers how to have good conversations around race and representation that are rooted within the teaching of English literature, but also the subject knowledge. So all these four barriers compounded make it really difficult to meaningfully introduce more text by writers of colour into the curriculum, and that's both at primary and secondary level. So as a publisher and a race equality think tank, what we've been doing as the founding partners of the campaign is to think about how can we actively make those barriers seem smaller. What can we do from today, tomorrow, that will help teachers as they try to make English literature more inclusive? So one of the things that we know we can do as a publisher is do lots and lots of book donations. So over the past almost 4 years now, we have been creating opportunities for schools to get more books by writers of colour into their classroom and their libraries. We've also been creating lots of free teaching resources to support schools and teachers as they go on this journey. And if you visit Twinkle, you'll see that we have a whole host of resources with our partnership there. We also have partnerships with the education platform TES on their Black Experiences Hub, but you can also download our free resources from penguin.co.uk/lit in colour. We've also held some interesting training opportunities in terms of webinars to do with how to approach race in the classroom, but also thinking more generally about what books are on the curriculum that are available to teach at secondary that you might want to have a go at but haven't yet had the opportunity to. And we've been able to interview authors to actually talk about their books, why they wanted to write them, and ways that they could involve them in the classroom. So this is some of the work that we've been doing, but our partnership with Pearson EdXL is really exciting because it was one of the first major partnerships we had back in 2021. And it's all about trying to take away those barriers in real time and see what you can do when you actually give teachers and schools the support they need to be able to make these really positive changes.
Brilliant. Thank you. So that was great. Great to have that background information. And so now I just want to quickly explain what the programme is. So up to this point, we've now supported over 250 schools, which is fantastic. So the programme works like this. The school commits to teaching a Pearson EdXL GCSE and or A-level examination text and qualification. And secondary schools are going to be incentivised to teach the set text by a writer of colour at either GCSE or A level from September 2024. And how it works is you get a free programme of work, teaching resources, mini library, book donations, set text and access to author content and resource pack to run a reading club. Come back to the reading club a bit later, but yeah, so you get all that and it's all free, which is fantastic. And the teachers who've previously signed up have said how much they really love being a pioneer and how it's changed things for them and for the students. We'll come back to that again in a minute, but yeah, it's fantastic. So there's how can I say this? There's just no reason why there's anything to block you from doing it, because it's just such a fantastic opportunity and we're there to support you. As Zaahida was saying, there's things from Penguin in terms of resources. You've got ourselves here and we have our subject advisor, Claire Haviland, who helps people if they've got any issues as well. So, we really, really feel so strongly about this. It's such a good opportunity. And I think it's probably too good an opportunity to miss, really. But yeah, and obviously you'll know where to sign up because you'll have seen the link with the form, so you can join through that way and and become a Lit in Colour pioneer. So that's it really from that aspect of it. So I'm just now going to hand back over to Zaahida, who's going to talk to you about the mini library donation.
Thanks, Pam. So, one of the really exciting elements of this programme of work is that Penguin donates a mini library donation of books to every participating school. Now, these books are meant to support a deeper understanding of the set text, but also give teachers and students new ideas for reading for pleasure, new ideas of books to take into different classes, and generally just complement the experience of going through the GCSE or A level set text that each school has switched to. On this slide, you'll see there is a range of books that will likely be included in your donation. The donation is due to arrive with your set text if you become a pioneer school this year. It will arrive between June and July. You'll get all the information in terms of the specific texts that are in your donation. Some texts, there'll be a few copies of the book so that you can have kind of reading groups. Others, there might be one or two, but the idea is that it's for the whole school to enjoy. So there will be a range of books suitable for Key Stages 3 all the way up to 5. And some of them will have additional resources with author content, videos, downloadable worksheets, lesson plans that are all freely available. And I'll hand back over to you, Pam.
Thank you, that's great. Yeah, I mean, the book donation is amazing, isn't it? And I know myself, I'll just quickly show you this picture. So as you can see there, this is from our Pioneers Facebook group, and they are images of that teachers have sent in when they've opened the books and they've seen the library and they've laid it all out to show us, and they're just so pleased and so happy with the books they've received. And of course, they're from Key Stage 3 upwards, so it's just amazing, really. And yeah, so I just wanted to show you that. Okay, Zaahida, I was just thinking now this might be a good time for us to reflect on, on what we've seen and what we've heard about the Pioneers group from schools and teachers. So have you got anything that particularly springs to mind for you?
I think now that we're entering the 4th year of recruiting for the Lit in Colour Pioneers pilot, I'm really struck by how year on year we've been able to support teachers to make these really important changes. Back in 2021, when we had the first recruitment drive, it was a really exciting time because, we were still very much in the pandemic. People were
Mm.
still getting ill from COVID. People still remembered, really quite vividly the events of 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, with the global Black Lives Matter protests. And we're really able to step into that moment of reflection in terms of how can I look at what's been happening around me in the wider world, but channel that element and desire for change into what I'm doing. And obviously for teachers of English literature, that's been thinking about the text, that's been thinking about their student populations and thinking how can we create a more representative curriculum. And what I love about the Pearson Pioneers, edXL program is that the choices of text allow teachers to do that. You can have different narratives coming into conversation. You can have students bringing in different elements of their lived experience, which previously hasn't been able to happen on this kind of scale. So I'm really excited by the fact we've been able to continue to recruit teachers and students who want to make that change. And I think this year, because we're able to be in the 4th year now, we're actually seeing what that impact has done in terms of different ways of teaching, in terms of teacher knowledge and confidence, but also what it's actually done at assessment level in terms of how are students responding to this work, what kind of quality of work are they producing. And that's just really encouraging to be able to see now. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said there now, it just kind of makes me, I know I don't want to sound like I'm being over the top, but it's quite moving, isn't it? Because in a way, I feel like people have got to be quite brave to take the, right, I'm going to change from teaching, say, an inspector course, for example, which I've been teaching for years. And you have got to be quite brave to do it, haven't you? I mean, but it's so worth the risk, isn't it? And I know from my own experience here, we went out and did some case studies, and one of the schools we went to was in Suffolk, and we met teachers there who had become a pioneer. And at first, as she said to me, we were really sort of feeling a bit like, oh, have we done the right thing? Because some teachers, you get some people in the department who are used to teaching the old text they've taught, and it is challenging, isn't it, to suddenly switch to a new text. I know myself as a teacher, and I think once you've decided to do it, it's kind of just being brave to do it. You do it, and then you get everyone on board with you, and the rewards that you're going to reap from doing it, that's what they were saying to me in the school, is just amazing, because, you know, like you said earlier, it's about students see themselves reflected in text, or they get, you know, or they get a window to the world that they might not have had before. It just opens their eyes, doesn't it? And I think it's so important and vital that we do that. I mean, you were mentioning there about, you know, the pandemic and George Floyd. I mean, if you think, when I first started at Pearson, which was 2019, I think, one of the things I came into there was, as I mentioned about Katie Lewis earlier on, she was saying, you know, we were going to bring in new texts. So we were reading all these different texts. And of course, you're under some constraints because you have to go with the Ofqual requirements. So there's a lot of text that we might have brought in, but we couldn't. But of course, then we read text and found new text to bring in. And we were thinking, oh, you know, let's hope people do, you know, stand up to the challenge and they start teaching these texts. And those who have just been blown away with the impact, the engagement with students. And when you see, like you mentioned about the work, when you see, now it's been going a couple of years, from our point of view as an exam board, when you see the work that's produced, you just realise that this is so engaging for them, and a lot of students can relate to what they're reading. It's just, and it's more relevant, I suppose, as well, a lot of the text. So yeah, it's just fascinating, really, and it's been great to see the engagement with the text. What about you? Is there anything else you thought of?
No, I agree with you. And I think, you know, English literature is such a special subject. It's always been
Yeah.
one of my favorites because it gives you that ability to, you know, step back, think about the
Mm,
world, step back, think about what's the author really saying here, step back, think about the characters. Would you
mm,
have done that? Would I have done that? So it gives you, you know, that viewpoint into being really empathetic and just having a bit more, I guess, emotional intelligence about certain decisions and thinking about what's going to make a change or what could make a change with a storyline, with
mm,
elements, you know, in your own life. And no other subject really does that. So I think what we're seeing now coming through from students, coming through from teachers, is that broadening of the
mm,
study of literature, which is brilliant because that can make changes in other parts of people's lives. And I know so much pressure gets put on exams and students at this point in their life. So when you have a subject that can help them look up and out, I think
mm,
that's, you know, a really amazing life skill.
definitely.
So I'm a big champion of English literature and
Yeah,
always will
exactly.
be.
Yeah, and it's that window out in the world that you might not normally have had. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, a lot of the schools that have become pioneers are schools where they have a wide range of students who come from a wide range of backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, etc. And then we've got some schools who signed up. And of course, that then is great because, you know, they get to see themselves in text maybe that they might not have done before. And then you've got some schools who've signed up to be pioneers who are in a different part of the country, you know, not near a city, whatever, where the majority of students are, you know, are white students, as it were, and they sort of all come from a similar background. And it's kind of, there's one school that I went to, and they started a book club, and the students that came along to the book club, it was Diane actually, and she started the book club, and the impact it had on her and the students, she was just so amazed at how it opened their eyes and how they learned about different, you know, cultures that they didn't know about before. So there's that outward looking, and there's also the inward looking in a way, isn't there? So yeah, it's just that window on the world that you might, you know, that you might not normally have had. So it's really interesting, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think you've actually touched on something that we're going to be looking more into and publishing research on later this
Hmm.
year is
Ah,
actually
yeah.
what has been, you know, the qualitative impact of studying set text by a writer of colour, because nothing quite like this has happened on this scale before in this country. Yes, previous GCSE and A-level qualifications allowed slightly more room for books by writers of colour to be brought in, but nothing quite on the scale that we're seeing now in our current education system, which is really exciting.
Mm, yeah.
So the fact that, you know, Pearson at Excel and Runnymede Trust, Oxford University and Penguin Random House
Mm,
have invested in more research to really look at what happens for students and teachers when they do study a more representative curriculum is really exciting. And I can't wait to see more of what that research is going to say later this year. So again, thinking back to, you know, the pioneers cohort, they really have been pioneering because we're going to learn so much from what
yeah.
they have gained.
You just stole my line. I was just thinking the same thing. So we're great minds think alike. Exactly. They really are pioneers, aren't they?
Yes.
Pioneers, definitely. That's great. Yeah. So I mean, there's lots of other things. We've had our Lit in Colour conference, haven't we? We've had, the pioneers have come along to that, and everybody's come to that, has had a great time. So it's just great, isn't it, to have these opportunities that we're, giving to teachers and students. And I was just going to say also, it's just the things I suppose the anecdotal feedback as well that we've had and what teachers have said to us. I was just going to show this slide actually as the final slide. And as you can see there, we've got Pioneer School feedback from 2023. I won't read it because I'm sure people can read it themselves, but I'll just stop for a moment so people who are watching can read it. Yeah, there's so many things in that, even in that one piece of feedback, isn't there? There's the fact that they took the risk, which is what we were talking about earlier, of changing from a well-known text, and it's paying off. And then there's the excitement and the enthusiasm from students, the whole engagement side of it, and the tangible results. I mean, it's just, that's the sort of thing, that's why we're doing it, isn't it? Because we know it's going to be so impactful.
Exactly. And I think, a writer like Mallory Blackman, if this is the child's first way into her work, she's such a prolific writer, they can now go and, read Noughts and Crosses. They can then go and watch the adaptation on the BBC. They can go and read Pig Heart Boy. There's so much that this one book being on the curriculum can then do for opening a child's horizons in terms of what else can I read. And the fact that she's still alive, and did a previous event with us is fantastic, because that's studying something contemporary, that's studying something where the children can actually think, oh, actually the character in this book is about to go to university, maybe that's something I want to do. And you can't quite do that with other texts, which are still brilliant, but this text is, I think, quite a special one. So when we got this feedback, I was over the moon.
Exactly. And you mentioned there about them going on to read, or they might have read Mallory Blackman's text in Key Stage 3, and it's like, wow, this is on the curriculum for me to study at GCSE. It just feels more sort of relevant somehow, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, and as you say about the content of it, yeah, exactly. So there are other texts as well, and everybody's taking on, different text out of our choices, but it's just great to get so much. I mean, we could go on talking about the feedback, but we don't want to bore people forever with it. So yeah, it's just amazing, isn't it? So I think that's really everything from us now about this year's, apart from the fact you really need to sign up if you're watching this and you haven't already, about the Pioneers programme. What do you think? Is there anything that I've missed or?
No, I think this is good. I'd encourage people to really have a think, talk to your departments, talk to your head of departments, and make sure it's a collective decision, because that's when you'll get the best results, when everyone's fully on board. And just that, Pam and myself are here should you want to reach out for any more information.
Exactly. And that was a good point you made actually about making sure everyone's on board. So, if you're in a school where, maybe the senior team or, your line manager, if you're a head of department, and then you've got head of faculties, I don't know, it's just have a real think about it. And, you've seen the sort of things that are available for you. You've seen how people who've already done it have not regretted it. And they're so glad they took the opportunity really. So yeah, exactly. That's it. So thanks everyone who's watched this with us, or you're watching it later on. At the moment it's January in 2024, and we're just about to launch our Lit in Colour Pioneers window for this year. So the Pioneers programme is almost live to join. Thank you. Thank you, Zaahida, for joining me today. It's been great to see you.
Thanks, Pam.